guys, welcome back to the Bucket Think Tank for another round of rapid fire comic book reviews. And today we're going to start with Star Wars issue 21 by Charles Soule. So, what's interesting about this issue is, well, not necessarily interesting. This is sort of what Star Wars does. In other words, it's like two stories. There's, hey, we're doing the Force, and it's this metaphorical battle for good and evil with the dark and the light side, and how far will Luke progress, which is what got me back to reading the book. And then you have the rebellion fighting the Empire thing, which, if Luke's in it, or like there's something, Jedi Sith related, usually I care. And I'll be the first to admit, this is always what kind of bores me the most. Like, I get it. But ultimately for me, we're just seeing a bunch of, temporarily important characters doing a thing. It doesn't really quite matter. And I think that's a bit unfair sometimes. So when I knew this was coming, I was like, you know what? We're going to be fair. We're going to read it. And this story picks up actually after the first story that was told in the new volume for this. So the first round of Disney Star Wars books, comics, with the main Star Wars, takes place after the events of A New Hope and ends before Empire Strikes Back. This one picks up after Empire and will presumably go until just before Return of the Jedi. And what happened was, well, star battle, space battle, some good people were lost, some good people were found, and Poe's mom is stuck on a Star Destroyer called Tarkin's Will. And so this whole time, Shara Dameron, has spent her time undercover, pretending to be a stormtrooper this whole time, trying to get a message out as to where she is and anything else she can find out to the rebellion covertly without being found. And you have to wonder, like, this is insane that she has to do this. So she hides out in the condemned wreckage space, and she's able to every now and then send a message. And her husband, what is his name? I keep forgetting his name. We call him Sergeant Dameron. So apparently his name doesn't matter. It's probably somewhere. I just, again, give me some leeway here. All right. To be fair, this is an amazing feat that she's able to keep undercover and in hiding for so long. Because remember, she can't take her helmet off, the stormtrooper's helmet she's wearing, because then they'll know, like, there aren't any, well, there weren't any female stormtroopers. It's not a thing. Just saying. And, she hides out pretty much like anywhere she can, like in the condemned area, in the walls, and she's going through finding astromech droids to gain Imperial intelligence. And of course she mentions the commander, the alien Zara. Shara mentions, like, hey, people think she's some kind of unstoppable hunter and she can't be beaten. And it's hard to imagine that she doesn't notice as a stowaway. Well, turns out 5 minutes later, she's approached by Lieutenant Gore, who's like, hey, I think we got a stowaway. She's like, yeah, I figured. And, they explain, like, hey, there's possibly hiding out in the condemned area in the wreckage. And, that's how that sort of goes. She tries to sneak onto an Imperial shuttle. Oh, I got it right. She tries to sneak onto an Imperial shuttle and is met by, well, you guessed it. And now she's kidnapped, and this comic ends with Sergeant Dameron, Kes, as he's called, Poe's dad, so, like, you know what? We can't wait. We're going to go save Shara, and, damn the consequences. And, like, the friend's like, yeah, dude, we got you. And that's how the story ends. So, I may have seemed a bit flippant, because in part, I didn't care. Like, I really don't care about these people. To be fair, Shara is, I think, a fun character. Well, she's an interesting character. Strong character. And this sort of, I'm going to go save my wife is a fun, interesting story for Star Wars. I really liked her best in the Shattered Empire comic, which takes place relatively after the events of Return of the Jedi, and she goes with Luke to retrieve a tree from the Empire that had actually been growing in the Jedi Temple. And they get two, and he gives one to her, and yeah, it's a fun little story. We might go over it one day. Actually, I think Shattered Empire was like a really great way to start off Disney Star Wars, but that's neither here nor there. Next, we have Batgirls issue 4 by Becky Cloonan. So I thought this was the last issue, And if it was, I'm like, this is the dumbest way to end this story because still all these other threats. So when we last left off, Babs had found out that Seer had hacked her new network again, and it picks up that morning. She's calling Dick Grayson, making sure he's okay, and turns out he's fine. He's fine. That was just that entire picture was bait. She's still kind of trash if she was hitting on that guy. And she tells Steph and Cass, like, okay, well, you know what? So I've been up for like 6 hours straight, dismantling and resetting up the new system. Because Seer's too OP. Seer's too OP. So take the day off, and what we'll do, our next mission will be taking care of Tudor, because we're splitting ourselves too thin, here. So if we just focus on Tudor, and then we'll go one after the other after that. So they do, and they hang. Steph and Cass go to a bookstore run by Mr. D, the neighbor who wanted the crock pot. And Cass believes that the crazy old man who looks like he's supposed to be Old Man Marley from Home Alone. Steph's like, I'm pretty sure he's killing those people. Cass wanted to buy a new book recommended by Mr. D. Mr. D's like, no. The first book to newcomers is free. The exchange is, you got to come back and tell me how you felt about the book. I'm like, Mr. D, you are top. You're some good people, Mr. D. Some good people. And treating books like a drug. Like, the first one's free. They'll be back for the rest. And then they proceed to go after Tudor that night. And they've got a special filter on the mask, so that should be able to handle the fear toxin going with. The magistrate leftovers are still following them. It's kind of weird. The book never implies that they know that they're being followed, but whatever. And they go through, they have a showdown with Tudor. Steph is under control again, but with help from Catch is able to fight it off. They get a hold of Tudor, who looks way weirder than he did before. I was pretty certain we never saw his face, but whatever. So Babs says, okay, so the GCPD is kind of full or busy right now, so take him to my not ex-boyfriend who does the art therapy, and they drop him off there, which is weird if you think about it, because he's a therapist. Tudor is a criminal. You don't hand criminals over to therapists. You hand them over to the authorities, to the GCPD. Like, I don't care if they're hot, if they're busy. You call the GCPD and say, hey, we've got a criminal out here. But whatever, okay. So, it's a shame they didn't, because it turns out that Babs' ex, because Babs has the best choice in men that aren't Dick Grayson, Tudor works for him. I'm like, no, this feels kind of contrived. It kind of does. So that's how the comic ends. So my issue with this issue is it furthers a 6-issue story. That's supposed to be 6 issues by another 2. Now, it's not going to go to 2. It's not going to go to 8 is what I'm saying. But what is really messed up about this, think about it. So we just dealt with Tudor. Turns out Tudor's part of a bigger plan. We still have the other magistrates. We still have that guy that's going around killing people in the neighborhood. And we still have Seer. So you expect me to believe, now unless it's going to be revealed that they're all tied together, then sure, that Seer's behind all this. The only way this works is if Seer's behind all of this. And at that point, I'm kind of like, I thought Babs was supposed to be a detective. Like, you've got like 1.5 detectives here with Babs and Steph. Not that Cass is stupid, but she's not a detective. Those are 2 different things. So I'm like, how did none of you sort of think like there's a connection here? I don't know. This is just so weird. Anyway, next up is a new book, Strange Issue 1. So, if you recall, we talked about the death of Doctor Strange. And in that story, well, Doctor Strange died. He technically died 3 times. So there was his initial murder that started the book off. Then there was his past self that came back. In essence, a piece of his soul that came out, like, I'm here, Strange had this plan where I show up in the event of my death, in the event of, like, the President Strange's death, I come in and help get his affairs in order and hopefully solve his murder or whatever. And then, the Strange from that past or whatever died, and then during that fight, Strange came back to life temporarily and then died again. So, what's happened? Well, Clea, his wife, well, his student, wife, ex-wife, student, then wife, now widow, is back and she's the new Sorcerer Supreme. And it's weird because it's not how that works. So Doctor Doom points out, like, well, hey, I'm here to be the new Sorcerer Supreme, so I'll be taking the Eye of Agamotto, and so I'll be taking the eye and the cloak, just all the stuff necessary. Clea's like, no, Strange made me the Sorcerer Supreme, like I'm his wife, his widow, so we share the name, so we get that. I'm the new Doctor Strange, the new Sorcerer Supreme, and Doom is like, that's not how that works. Granted, Doom just doesn't get to make himself Sorcerer Supreme. The Vishantis appoint the new Sorcerer Supreme. Clea's like, well, yeah, but Strange also made it his dying wish that, you not be the Sorcerer Supreme, which I don't think he said that. I think he said, like, look, Doom's going to come by, and Doom has the skill, but not the temperament, just not. And what's weird about this story is Clea, I don't know enough about Clea to have a really informed opinion about where her character is going, or like if she feels in character. But one thing I feel is that she's having the transfer from being in two different dimensions. She was the Sorcerer Supreme of the Dark Dimension. And she's from a line of warlords. Like she's the niece of Doctor Doom. I'm not Doctor Doom. She's the niece of Dormammu. So she's not really used to peaceful negotiations, or not ending something with fatalities. We see this when they go to like this basically Diagon Alley. Like every magical story has this. There's the troll market or whatnot, where hey, we're hidden from normal society, but we do all of our magical searching, magical exchanges and whatnot here. The magical bazaar, so to speak. And it turns out that no one runs the magical market. At least this version of it. Like this one. It's probably like the magical black market, which someone else runs. But it's informed to us that, hey, this is like a community thing. Everyone's equal. Doesn't matter who you are. The kingpins try to come in here. We took care of the kingpin. All right. No one runs the block. All right. The block is for everyone. And then another group comes in like, hey, we're to take over the block. Clea kills them. And that leads to a conversation between her and Wong. And Wong's like, well, no. Like, I get how you do things in a dark dimension, but you're now the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth. And there are certain things, like, you can't just do it the way you want to do it. The job has to be done a certain way. But the real meat of this is, of course, what Clea wants to do. Clea seems to be aware of something very important to the superheroes of Earth. These bastards don't stay dead. So Strange is probably gonna come back. He may even be back now, just not able to come back. Maybe he's lost his memories or whatnot. So she casts a spell that says, hey, look, that thing's searching the planet. If anyone matching Strange's soul or biorhythm or whatnot or his shoe size comes out, we'll know. And then we'll figure out what to do later. And I'm like, okay. That's interesting, it is. And it's honest. Like, they were never going to permanently kill off Doctor Strange. I mean, it's beyond stupid, really, if you think about it. He's got a movie coming up in what? It's like this year, I think the next couple months? Yeah, why would anyone do that? It'd be the dumbest decision ever. So she gets this little ping, like, hey, the magic told me that Strange is alive. So she goes, and she's met by this, I think it's like the Thunderstruck. I think that's what he's called. And he's like, you will not revive Doctor Strange. I'm like, oh, so we're close to reviving Doctor Strange. Okay. So this story seems alright. I'm not sure how long it's going to be. I expect maybe 4 to 5 issues. This sort of miniseries, both DC and Marvel have been doing them lately, and they're alright. But the problem is, I think people do like those sort of long stories we would get to sink your teeth into, get comfortable with, The problem is, though, if you don't like it, you're just sort of done. But whatevs. In terms of mantle passing, I think this is better than, say, the Ironheart of Riri Williams or the Thor Goddess of Thunder of Jane Foster. Primarily because Strange is just legitimately taken out of the picture. We didn't have to break Strange down like we did with Thor, or put Tony in a coma and then introduce a character no one knew about before to sell this idea. Like, yeah, I know Riri Williams showed up in, I think, at least Civil War 2, as early as that. But no one knew who she was, and she took Rhodey's armor at that point. So, no, it still didn't make sense. I think Clea feels a bit off. She's sort of all over the place, and I think someone said that Jed MacKay, who wrote this, who also wrote The Death of Doctor Strange, also wrote Black Cat, and points out that she sounds more like Black Cat than she does Clea. Again, I don't know, but I'm hoping to see more from her, like actually doing the duties of the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth, and seeing how different it is to being the Sorcerer Supreme of the Dark Dimension. Overall, though, all right, it's a rough start. I think if you know Clea, you probably wouldn't be endeared to this, but I don't know. I don't know. So anyway, with that in mind, brings me to a close here. If you're new to the Bug Think Tank, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. Check out some other videos, and I'll catch you all later. This is Bug Think Tank signing off. Thanks for watching, and as always, may your fandom serve you well.